I've seen you do on your videos that like that spring thing where you just go to the side.
Yep,
If you can like tweak that to work more on pronation, that'd be awesome. Because you
I
in
would
a
be.
real match, you don't go straight to the side. They're gonna try to cup you in, right?
Yeah,
So
no,
if
you're
you fight
absolutely right.
against that at the same time, then
That's going to be crucial.
yeah.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Collaborate and Pull Together, a podcast where we highlight all things positive on and off the table. Today we have some special guests. This is just a Tuesday before the summer kickoff of 2025. Right now on screen with me, we got Shiyu, who's got a matchup against Kevin Nelson. Um, and in a few minutes, we're going to also have Billy Ortagus of Texas Armwrestling League joining us, along with a couple others, some of the teammates that are helping make this event happen, and maybe some other competitors might join us as well. Um, right now, I just want to say hi to Drew. What's up, man? Always loyal follower. Appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Wanted to quickly shout out while we don't have everyone on screen as of yet. We have some good sponsors here: New York Cryogen Incorporated, Get Up and Lift Fitness, Haven Physical Therapy, Legion of Arms, Boost Street Exotics, New York Smoke, and NutriWealth. Thank you guys for your financial contributions. But we can't have this event without the affiliates either, because they're helping, one way or fashion by supplying either their skills without any, without asking for anything. They're just looking to help out and help us build it up. We have Table Monkeys. We got a major arm wrestling championship. We got the Pit Crew coming through. Could be UTV, Clean Cut Fitness, New York Tri-State Arm Wrestling, Shot Colors, and Red Lightning. All of them are helping make this event as great as it can possibly be. Appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thank you so much. I look forward to this event. I can't express how excited I am enough. I was reviewing some of the pictures of the previous year's events, and the crowd just steadily grew and grew and grew. And now this is my first year doing a tournament with some pretty epic matches. And the main event, your opponent will be hopefully joining us later on, Shiyu, but you being the main event, man, like you were actually one of the first matches, I think, of the first year I did this, right?
Oh,
You and Pedro, before
yeah,
you
yeah,
punch
yeah.
yourself in
I
the
remember that.
face.
Yeah, yeah. I remember that. I was bleeding.
Yeah, you
Pedro
almost
made me
knocked
bleed.
yourself out. Almost knocked yourself out, man.
Yeah.
It was right in my own backyard. I,
Yeah,
I
that was an
remember it was
experience for sure.
Paul Italia and Urban Arm Wrestling helped out. It was a whole bunch of things. We had some really good coverage on that day, too. It was a fun day. Definitely a fun day.
Hmm.
Kickstarted a whole lot for me. But Shiyu, this is one of the things that I love about my platform is we highlight people that really don't get on screen, per se. No one knows who you are. You're like a hidden gem here in New York, and you had some solid wins throughout your arm wrestling career, but we'll get to that in a moment. How long have you been in the sport? Where did you start?
I started around. Hi, Billy.
What's up?
What's up?
Hey, Billy, what's up, man?
Chilling.
Yeah. But yeah, I started around 2018,
Okay.
towards the end of 2018. So around, I'd say around 7 years now. It's kind of an on and off thing, but when I'm on, I kind of train like my life depends on it. Um, but I started when my college friend, was interested in arm wrestling, like as a sport. Like, everybody likes arm wrestling, like the school lunch table, boys. And he kind of just Googled arm wrestling practice near me. This was way before arm bet, so arm wrestling wasn't really that big back then. Um, so we stumbled upon Jason Vale's practice in Queens. We showed up. I think they were doing Bible study, so we thought we were at the wrong place. And when we were about to leave, I think Jason came out. He said, "No, no, 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 no. We do Bible study before practice at 8 p.m." So then we go in. It's just this dude's basement. we go downstairs, and there were arm wrestling tables everywhere and trophies everywhere, and that's kind of how everything started.
That's awesome. Talk about like a little bit of a mind fuck. Going in there and be like, wait, am I in the right
Yeah,
place?
am I in the right place?
Religious study group, or
Yeah. That's how it all started. But yeah,
so
rest in peace, Jason. Um, wish he could be with us today, but yeah,
yes, I know he would have been really happy to see where the sport's grown. I think. With that
definitely.
being said, part of who's facilitated the sports growth is Billy Ortagus right here. As I was reminiscing earlier, she was a part of the very first event that I ever had, and so were you, Billy. You created the flyer for the very first event that I had here back in your old school flyer days.
Yeah. I was. I've made a little improvement since then.
just a little bit, man.
Just a
So
little bit.
tell us, how did you get started in the sport? Where did you begin?
Well, let's see. Back in October of 2019, I guess it was a little bit before that. I had a buddy of mine that was dabbling into some grip stuff. He likes grip stuff, and there's a little bit of a crossover into arm wrestling here and there. So I had been out of the gym for a long time, years. I quit going to the gym like when my wife was pregnant with my son, and then I decided to get back into it he was about 7 years old. But I didn't want to do the stuff that I was doing before. Like I was beyond all the like the bodybuilding or powerlifting and stuff. So I was like, what do I want to do? And just kind of getting in with him, that crossover and stuff. I just started looking for it, and that's kind of the weird thing is like you have to, it's out there, but you have to look for it, oddly enough,
Yep.
and then you find out that it's really out there. So I've been messaging back and forth with a guy here, Dustin Laughlin. He had a small San Antonio team that he had started and hadn't gotten out yet or anything like that. But October of 2019, Travis Bagent had a collaboration event here in San Antonio. So I showed up to that, and that was the first time I'd ever touched a table. I didn't compete. I just kind of watched, saw what was going on, and stuff like that. Did a little side table stuff with some guys. And then after that, just started going to practice. And, fast forward, now here we are, 2025. And yeah, that's been cool.
You got bit by the bug, man. Got bit by the bug. Some people, like Shiyu was mentioning before, he when he trains like his life depends on it. But then there's some people like yourself who got bit by the bug and get some ball, rolling by way of momentum, and you take the bull by the horns, to the point where you're now a league director, a president of a league, rather.
Yeah, and that it's weird, kind of how I ended up in that, but because I didn't start Texas Arm Wrestling League.
Yeah, no, I know you didn't start it, so it came to fruition. How long were you in the sport of arm wrestling, and how did that come to be?
So 2019 was my first time on the table, and then I practiced for about a year, and then in the end of 2020, TAL, about mid 2020, there was a lot started talking about TAL. The guy that originally started, Keith Armbruster, had started getting some guys together across the state. He had this idea, and they put it together. And our kickoff event was at the end of 2020, and that was my first arm wrestling tournament. That was the first time I ever competed in an arm wrestling tournament. And shortly after that, things started just being involved with my team leader, Dustin Laughlin. He was actually a director of what we consider to be the southern region here in Texas, and kind of just started getting more involved with that. And I started doing video for TAL and started kind of getting into that side of in essence, promotion. Like I was making flyers for guys' super matches. So I was making flyers for the events and stuff and kind of doing the whole media thing. And unfortunately, I mean, I guess fortunately or unfortunately, I guess it depends on how you look at it. Keith had some stuff come up, and it was time for him to let it go, and he gave me a call. So I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm only like 2 years in the sport. Why not?
Something new. I mean, what's your previous experience with sporting events and promotions? Did you have any at that point?
Nothing official. I mean, I played sports all through high school or anything and stuff like that. And, then I worked for Union Pacific Railroad. So I hired out with them at 21 years old. So I'd been doing that ever since. So really there's no like official sports, background or anything like that, So this is all very fresh and very new going into it. But, here's the cool thing is that people make arm wrestling a lot harder than it needs to be.
Right.
And so, I kind of look at it that way. I'm like, it can be very easy and it can be very difficult, but it's not that hard to. There was a lot of people that doubted me taking over the league just with like 2 years in the sport, no experience, stuff like that. And I understood that. And I realized that that was a big weight I was going to have to carry for a while. But I think within our first year, I think people started to kind of realize that I had it together. So.
No, you definitely have pretty much brought, I feel like, Texas together in a fashion that when I first started, I didn't know that Texas was like that much of an entity. And then as the ball rolled on, I noticed, like, hey, there's more events. Hey, I need to get my butt down there. I want to get my butt down there. And I've been wanting to. And then hopefully by next year, finally, I should actually have the capacity to do so with the work schedule.
Well, there's plenty of opportunity, that's for sure.
Oh yeah. Now it's just on my side of things, making it actually a reality. So
yeah. That's kind of the bad thing too, though. It's like when you have your own stuff going on, like with the league stuff, I'd like to travel out, out of state here and there and stuff like that. And I've been able to do that a little bit lately. I've been trying to kind of make my schedule so that I have these other opportunities and stuff, but it's difficult.
Yeah, I seen you hit up. Was it Arizona?
No. Yeah. So Arizona in November.
In November you're going, and then recently you went somewhere. Where was that?
I was over in Hot Springs with Robert Kelly.
There you go. I knew there was. Yep. Robert Kelly's a killer dude. He's gonna be doing the live stream for our event this weekend. Big shout out.
Yeah, I did see that. Yep.
I'm
very
looking
cool.
Forward to that.
Very good guy.
Great dude. He's been helping me out, making me good advisement as to like, this is my first time having a tournament, so I don't have an expectation other than what I've experienced, and I'm relying heavily on some of the leaders in the community to help me and guide me. And, I've gotten some really good, response from people. Hey, yeah, don't do this. It's a great idea, but you should try it this way. That's one of the things about this community that I love. It's tight knit. Everyone's there to help. Everyone's eager to help. And especially those who don't view your success as a threat to their own, they look at you as like a way. Hey, how you're doing that might be how I might want to actually, expand upon that.
Yeah. It's a difficult line to walk sometimes, because like even here in Texas, we have the league stuff, and obviously that's what I'm 100% focused on. And then there are some other events in Texas from different promotions or promoters and stuff like that. And, it's a difficult line to walk when you have a goal and especially being kind of in the same state in a sense that, those goals might conflict a little bit.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, you just try to do your best with it, I guess, and just keep going.
We run into a lot of that up in the Northeast because we're super congested, and there are a lot of promotions that happen here. But you know what? I do believe the sport is getting to the point where it's big enough where we all can succeed. We can all grow, and we can all do well, and we don't have to grow necessarily fully independently from each other, but we don't have to, knock each other down either in that process either.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just it's a difficult question, but yet super simple in the same. I think the community just needs to decide what it wants.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is like there are, do you want a ton of tournaments everywhere, right? Like where, you could, are we talking like 2-3 in the same town on the same weekend where, 10, maybe 15 guys are going to them or something like that? Or do we want bigger events, fewer between? So that's kind of at the end of the day, it's not up to the promoters to decide necessarily. It's what the community wants. It's like sometimes you can't have both.
You're absolutely right. But then the other thing is also people's availability, right? People have lives,
Yes.
people have jobs, people have families. So depending on hey, I may not be able to make it to this event, so why can't I try to go to the event that's happening the following weekend because of my availability? Sure. I agree with you. I want to see bigger events. Now, like for instance, this next month, I have literally 5 weekends back to back with arm wrestling. It's my first time ever trying it out. I mean, I don't recommend anyone starting off in the sport to try that out. I'm approaching my year 5 doing it, and I'm going all over. I've got my own event coming up this last weekend. I arm wrestled a 12-year anniversary business celebration. And then next weekend, I'm going to KEYSTONE. The following weekend, I'm going to Chicago. And then the following weekend, I have a SuperMatch. So, like, I'm doing bam, bam, bam because I want to. I want to do that. I want to be a part of the big ones and the little ones. And I'm putting myself through that rigmarole. I'm not saying everyone needs to. Not saying everyone needs to, but I think I'm at a place where, at my arm wrestling career, where I can do that.
I think that's possible. I mean, once you get conditioned enough, I think, probably first and second weekends are probably going to feel all right. Once you get into your third and fourth weekends, I think it's going to start kicking in. But still, I think, like you said, once you get past a certain point in training, I guess it just depends on how you pull and everything. Like me, I think we practice every Friday here in San Antonio. And so, it's like regular practices. I don't really get beat up too bad in tournaments. I'm a top roller. So, generally speaking, I'm not getting into these big old wars with guys, and the hook inside and stuff like that. So I'm either winning or losing pretty quickly. So,
all right. I actually, Shiyu, how often do you practice? I want to ask.
Well, right now I only practice once a month. That's when it's available. I don't mind it too much, especially since at our practice we go pretty hard. Always need a little bit of time to heal the shoulders and the elbow. Yeah.
All right. So I actually practice twice a week.
That's crazy.
So I practice twice a week, and then during the taper down for this upcoming, crucible of arm wrestling that I'm going to experience, I actually have dropped down to once a week. And now I didn't really practice, at my normal practice time. I just did it the last Saturday. Didn't do anything by way of arm wrestling, just did some lifts and, resistance band work. So with that being said, for me, I feel like that's going to condition me to be the best results at an event. For you, Billy, what would you suggest to somebody just coming into the sport, or even like what you do for yourself that you've learned for maximum recovery from this sport? What recommendation?
I don't know if that's a good question for me.
That's fair.
And I'll tell you this because, thankfully in my state, I've had just a couple opportunities to arm wrestle, like say out of state or whatever, but not very. But in my state, I have some mild success, and considering I literally do nothing but practice once a week, like I do, and it's not. It is. I guess it is. It is at a choice because I choose to either do it, practice, or work out, or not do it. But literally, like it's I get practice once a week every Friday night on the table, and that's about it.
Gotcha.
So like when somebody says, "Hey, what do you do for arm wrestling?" and I go,
Arm wrestle.
kind of literally nothing, and they because I have just that mild success on the table and everything like that, it's kind of hard for people to kind of grasp a little bit because everybody's working out, everybody's trying to do PR lifts and doing all this kind of stuff. And then they might see me get on the table and I do halfway decent with a guy that they know is like killing it 3 days a week, and they go, what are you doing? And I'm like, nothing, and
That's
maybe that,
impressive nonetheless.
yeah,
For
maybe that
what it's
works,
worth.
maybe that works for some people. I know some of our guys here in Texas. We have one of our top super heavyweights. He likes to take off like a whole month before like a big match or a big tournament.
I couldn't do that. I would get ring rust like nothing else, man. I would my job is very labor intensive to the hands and wrist. I'm a licensed massage therapist, so I'm always working. We were just talking about this earlier with Shiyu.
Oh yeah.
I'm constantly trying to tax the fuck out of my hand because that's how where my strength is, and I wanted to make it even stronger and make it bulletproof as much as I can. So big shout out to Grip Deck, Zach over in Michigan. I think he's from. Check him out.
Okay.
Is
that the 3D printed deal?
Yeah, this thing is actually not bad, man. I kind of like it. I like the lightness. It's light as all hell. It's easy. It's portable. I put it in my pocket. It's a little bulky in a regular pocket, but a cargo pants, it works perfectly. Put it in the car.
Yeah.
And as I'm driving, I mean, it needs a little bit of oil. You can hear a little squeak on mine. I've only had it for 24 hours, and I think I'm already about to break the damn thing. But I happen to like it. It's a good idea. But I think people should definitely check it out. Support arm wrestlers who are being innovative with that.
The world of 3D printing is really changing the game, isn't it?
Oh yeah, some of the handles that are out there, I'm floored. Mithril arm wrestling equipment over in Kazakhstan. He's done a lot of 3D printed handles, and some of them are just next level, man. He threw on some grip tape on one of them, and it's got some strong feel. It like where it wants to pull your wrist away as you're trying to cup it.
Yep. Yeah, we got a guy. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, some big shout outs I wanted to say to the people in the chat. We got 98%. What's up, Ryan? We got Glenn Cochran, Salvatore Rios. What's up, man? Joshua Harrington. How's it going? From Weak Wrist Arm Wrestling. Drew Rivers, also from Weak Wrist. What's up? So these guys are going to be coming from far upstate New York to this weekend's event. Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, you shouldn't let that Ryan guy on there. He's no good.
So, question for you, both of you. Since you've gotten into the sport, who has been your biggest inspiration across the board? And you can do your top three. Top three inspirational individuals in the sport.
I have two in mind. Don't know about three. Yeah.
Go for it.
For me, it would have to be Matt Mask and Paul Lynn. So Matt Mask, because he's just so entertaining to watch. I've never met him before, but just from watching his videos, it kind of gets me fired up as well. He's also a kind of a lanky top roller, so I think our matches, our arm wrestling style kind of matches. Yeah, and Paul Lynn, he's just so motivational. I remember him being at East vs West, and I pretty much almost always being the underdog, and he always proves otherwise that he can win, and bring USA to the table. But yeah, I've met Paulin before. Super nice guy. You know how there's a lot of people who say don't meet your heroes in person, but I disagree with that, especially with Paul. He's such a big motivation. Taught me a lot of things. Very nice on the table. Super strong guy, of course. But yeah, I'd say Matt Mask and Paul Lynn.
I haven't had the pleasure of meeting Matt Mask myself, but I was at the event that he was at, but I didn't get to actually meet him in person. But all in, stand up dude, eager to give you the shirt off his back to you, and every lesson that you request, he gives you. And if he doesn't know, he'll find out information for you. I gotta say, he's a true stand up dude. Big shout out to them for the next weekend's KEYSTONE. That is one of the biggest tournaments in the Northeast. One of the biggest that's been standing. I think they're on their. I'm on my fifth. I think they're the 7th or 8th year. I think it's the 8th year. They're running, and it is. It just gets bigger and better. It's like a big outside arm wrestling carnival. I love it.
Yeah, we don't do anything outside here in Texas.
Well, I can only imagine that it would be brutal. It would be unforgiving out there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
we have no problem with cutting weight. No problem with cutting weight.
It has been, and that's one of the things. Like, we're pretty. One of the things that I did when I came in, not to say that we weren't before I did come in, but strict weigh-ins. We do strict weigh-ins. We don't do any of this willy-nilly. Oh well, it looks like you got 2 pounds of clothes on. You're good, or you're 10 pounds over. Let me take you in the bathroom, and somehow it's a miracle you made weight. But yeah. So that's kind of the good thing is it doesn't take much. Hey, go take a couple laps around the parking lot, come back in.
Yep. Exactly, especially in Texas. When you're in that warm of a climate, you don't really need that clothing allowance.
No, we do it just, and we had this discussion a while back. We do a clothing allowance, and I told the guys, it's not for you. It's not for the puller. It's for us. The clothing allowance is for us, so we don't have to keep getting up and taking people in the bathroom and stripping them down naked or anything like that. Yeah. So really, the 2 pounds is for us. It's not for you.
I like that. I'm going to have to say that at my tournament. We have a 3 pound clothing allowance. So some people show up, even if it's like 70 degrees outside, they show up wearing pants and a sweater on the scale, and I'm like, all right, if you just took that off, you quickly lose the 3 pounds. But all right, we'll give you that.
Yeah. See, and that unfortunately, that I understand where that makes sense, but one of our big things is you got to make the scale say what it's supposed to say, and whether that so we do a clothing allowance. Hey, buddy. And but that clothing allowance, and the funny thing is, only few guys have actually figured it out yet. I haven't seen we have guys that still come in wearing cargo shorts or blue jeans or something like that. I'm like, guys, what's going to happen. And I actually offered to cut a guy's pants legs off at the EZW in Arlington. Yeah.
I love it. I love that. That's awesome.
Yep. And people call me crazy. I mean, some people look at me crazy, but I'm like, that's, I think that's one of the things that legitimizes a sport, right? Is not allowing, what's the point of weight classes if we're just guessing? Let's have some standards out there. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. Guy was a little over, and I was like, you came in wearing pants. I said, how much do you like those? I got my knife right here. We can make that scale say what it needs to say. And he was like, no, I like them. I'll be right back. And he came back and he made weight. So
there you go. I love that. Yeah. That's hysterical. I mean, I'll actually, with that in mind, if there's a 2 pound of clothing allowance, I'll come in wearing, basketball shirts and a tank top, and as close to the weight as possible.
Absolutely.
And then I'll go and compete in the competition shirt and change it to something more comfortable to compete in.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah, that's the one thing we require is that you have to have some sort of a top on, and it has to be shorts, not underwear. So, you have to be able to do it appropriately in the middle of wherever we're at,
Wherever we're at. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So
that makes complete sense.
But yeah, kind of segue there, going back to, as far as inspiration goes, it might sound a little lame, but I don't know that I have anybody to pick for inspiration. I can tell you once I started promoting, I literally quit watching arm wrestling. For fun. I'll watch specific events for some important stuff, big matches or something like that. Or maybe there's something local going on where I want to see what happens with a few different guys or something like that. But once I started promoting, it takes up so much time that prior to me becoming the promoter for TAL, like my TV stayed on arm wrestling. It just stayed on something YouTube that was arm wrestling. It could be anything. Could be Devin. Could be Coach Ray. Any of these guys, and it just stayed there. Just played nonstop. And shortly after I got into promoting, all that stopped. But
you don't have any more time to watch it properly.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like I watch so many. Like I spend so much time doing all kinds of other stuff with arm wrestling that that just kind of fell to the wayside. But
I will say, go ahead.
Like if I'm thinking about like people I like to watch Giannis. I like how he arm wrestles. Okay. Very technical, very precise. So I mean, if I had to like pick somebody that I like to watch, it would be him. Probably Coach Ray is a second because they're typically together and they follow a lot of the same, standards and stuff like that. So
that's I love watching actually. Coach Ray is a really cool dude. I got to meet him up in Canada earlier this year, and really nice guy. Him and his girlfriend or wife, I'm not sure if they're married, but they're both just very generous, very nice people. Enjoyed them, and they're knowledgeable. They both have some serious knowledge about arm wrestling.
Oh yeah,
some tips and pieces of advice that I haven't competed since then, so I took all that to the drawing board, and I hope that I can actually make good on what they taught me.
Right. Right.
So to your point about being a tournament director and with promotions and whatnot, I don't envy you in any way or form. I have one event a year, man, and it's so time consuming. Yes, I do a little bit more, I think, for the event because of, by way of what I'm trying to do with networking and because it is in an off the beaten path by way of accessibility. I mean, we live on Long Island. Long Island, those who are coming out, I appreciate and love each and every one of you. It's part of the reason why I lowered the entry fee because I know that the tolls and the gas to get out here is a bitch. Yeah. It's a bitch. So I had to find a venue that was reasonable. I had to find, awards that were reasonable. Shout out to UAP Customs for their amazing awards that came in. They look beautiful. I can't wait to hand them off to the champions of the event. And so it's time consuming. I couldn't imagine running more than one event. I would probably have to streamline the process a little bit more in doing so and finding sponsors and finding people to become affiliated with to help me out because I don't have like a league that I'm working with. I have podcasts and people that I've connected with. That's, which I'm grateful for. Don't get me wrong. Like, it feels like a league. It feels like a brotherhood that I benefit from. So kudos to you, man. Kudos to you for being a part of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not just me. I mean, I have my directors. We split Texas into 5 different regions because it's so huge. Mm-hmm. And we have directors in each one of these regions. Sometimes and a lot of them have 2. So they bounce off each other, and then I kind of come in and bounce off them at the same time. But that's it's so the workload is not technically on one. Everything's not on one person. So like when we have a Northern Region event, those guys up there are coordinating the venues. They're looking for sponsors, and they're doing this and stuff like that. So the work's spread out. So having a good team really makes a difference when you throw in. Like we throw a minimum of 5, and then we can be affiliated or assist with anywhere from 2 to 3 extra events during the year.
Wow.
So
I mean, it's nice to have a team to do that, but that's still a lot to do.
It is a lot.
Listen, kudos, tip my hat off to you, man, because in New York. It's kind of like Gangs of New York here. I don't know. Yeah. Everyone has a difference of opinion on how to run it. There's always one way better than the next to skin the cat. There's more
Oh
than
yeah.
one way to skin a cat, and we can actually work together if we're a little bit more communicative.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is that everyone's got their ideas and how they want to do. So be it. New York is, while it's not the biggest of states, we're not as large as Texas. We have a lot of space to operate within, and I feel like it's growing in that regard. That way, yeah, I have the ability now to actually host my own event. This is my 5th year running my event, and
Yeah.
while I may not be affiliated with some of the other entities in New York, some of them are. Some of the entities, like New York Tri-State Arm Wrestling, big shout out to Steve Fernandez. He helps me out tremendously, and he's one of the newer promoters in the area that really does understand. And James Reed helps me out. I know you're familiar with him.
Yeah.
CNY Arms. They have been helpful, and they coach me, they talk to me, and they help guide me. They help supply. Like he's gonna Steve Fernandez, who's a killer on the mic. He's gonna be on the mic for me this weekend. So, like, I couldn't ask for a better crew of people to work with in that sense. I just wish we were a little more organized like you guys are. So maybe I might have to pick your brain off screen to see, what the communications are and how that operates.
Well, I can tell you, even when it looks organized, it's not always what it appears to be sometimes. So, I mean, like our last event was the Southern, and we also hosted Corey Miller's Super 64 with the 176 pounders. And that was a big event. We started at 10 a.m. and once we got finished with that, rolled directly in our tournament. We finished up, I think it was probably just before 7, and 268 entries on the tournament alone. And then another, 50, I think we had 56 guys, I think, in the 64.
Oh, wow.
So it was a long day. And,
day.
We had guys in that 76 that were from everywhere. They were from California, they were from Oregon, they were from New Hampshire, everywhere. And, a couple guys that came up to me and were like, hey, probably one of the best events I've been to. And I'm like, really? Because I'm looking around going, I'm kind of losing my shit a little bit right now. So sometimes when you think that it's going nuts, from somebody else's perspective, it could be going really great.
Listen, perception is someone's reality, right? That's
right.
That's the beauty of it all. And it looked good from a live stream because I was watching some of the live stream. Being a 176 guy, I was definitely eager. I wish I could have made it down there.
Oh yeah, there was some really good competition in that one, like really good.
It definitely piqued my interest. I was like, oh man, if they do this again, I want to definitely get involved in some fashion.
Yeah, I think Corey's going to finish off. He's finishing off with the 154s, and I think he's going to flip over to the left hand.
Okay.
And try to run the left hands, through it. So
the left hand definitely, at the end of this upcoming month, I'm going to be actually putting my left hand to the test against Ed DeCruz locally over at Steve Fernandez's event, New York Smoke. So I'm looking. My left arm's coming with a vengeance. So we'll see what happens. It's funny because one arm literally looks a lot more defined than the next.
That's everyone.
Right?
That is everyone. Yeah, that's this one definitely does not look like it's done any work in comparison, but it's stepping up the game. So I want to put it to the test in some bigger competitions.
Yep. Well, no, it was a good time though. It was those Super 64s are really cool. What Corey's putting together.
God bless him with the airs, with the Super 64. That is an incredible feat to undertake. And big shout out to him. I'm actually going to be. I know he doesn't live in Colorado, but like he does a lot of things in Colorado. And I'm just going to miss Colorado States. I'm going to be down there just a day or two afterwards. So for a family vacation. Sad I'm going to be missing that, but hopefully I get to meet some of the guys over there. Maybe I get to hang out with Corey. You have a good dude right there.
Corey's a good guy to bounce some ideas off to.
Absolutely.
He's been promoting, quite a while. So definitely.
With that in mind, so you told who you like to watch the poll. Who do you like to watch as a promoter?
Ugh. Now you really put me on the spot. I don't know if I can answer that question.
Well, okay. Who checks off most of the boxes? I know not anyone's going to check off all the boxes because that's just something that's there is no unicorn like that in our promotion world. But who checks off most of the boxes for you?
Jeez, man, I don't even know if I've thought about that. It's funny you say that. It's funny you say that because I've been hounding Corey, and he's very reluctant to do it. But I've been hounding Corey about a star rating system through airs for promotions. So like if you're gonna come to Texas and you're going to book a hotel room, right? Mm-hmm. You're gonna go, okay, hey, where am I going? Where's it located at? And you're gonna find 5 or 6 of them in the area, and then what are you gonna do? You're gonna go look at the reviews, right?
Yeah.
You can kind of get a sense of from if it's a Motel 6, you already kind of know what kind of standard you're looking at there. But Holiday Inns, Hiltons, whatever, it's kind of hard to tell. So you go to the reviews, right? All right, does it have a continental breakfast for free? Does it have a pool? Does it have a gym? Maybe you need a gym. Maybe you need to go do something, right? So kind of my idea behind it was, a star rating in a sense for promotions, and a certain percentage of your star rating would be based on a standard of criteria that's built, and like how many boxes you check, right? Do you have live stream? Because live stream matters to a lot of guys, right?
Absolutely.
They want to be able to go back and watch their own, stuff. Do you have payouts? Do you do this? Do you do that? Whatever. And then so your star rating could get so high. Let's just hypothetically say 3 stars if you checked all the boxes, and then your other 2 stars would be in basically the court of public opinion, right? Pullers would be able to go in and rate your promotion based on their experience or whatever like that. And that would give you an overall rating, and that would be in airs. So if somebody was looking for a tournament, you could go to airs and go, hey, I'm going to Texas. I'm going to check out, TAL. Oh, well, TAL's got 3.5 stars. What do they offer?
That.
You could be able to, it's like you get like a drop down box. Oh, they got live stream. They've got this, they got that. They got amateur classes. They got master's classes. They got, all these different things that you could put together.
I could see that can go in one of 2 ways. They can make a tournament become that much more successful, or you can kill a tournament, definitely. But it could also, another way it could do though is somebody can say, hey, this promotion's getting like 5 stars across the board. What are they doing? Now you can actually, instead of having to reach out and try to pick their brain, they're like, oh, they're doing this, that, and the third. Maybe I can implement some of these tactics in my next promotion.
Yeah. Look, Corey's actually watching. His ears must have been burning. You like that?
He heard his name.
He heard his name. You know why I'm reluctant to do this? Is not because I don't want to rate the event based on ratings for event itself on quality of pullers.
It's more of like. But here's the thing. I think I know what he's talking about, but I know what you're talking about too.
Yeah.
I used to be a corporate trainer for a brand experience department, right? And one of the things that the brand experience department was like, listen, you can go to any location to receive this same quality of service, but when it comes to customer service, how do you differentiate? What sets you apart? What do you bring to the table that others don't? And I think that right there is crucial, because that's maybe, all too often I see on Facebook people asking, hey, what's important to you as a puller to see at a tournament? What's important? And to be able to actually quickly see what's available for what you're looking for. When you're going on, Airbnb, or you're going on, Expedia, and you're searching for things, you put in like these certain criterias. And
Yeah.
what's important to you may not be important to the next puller. So
Yeah.
I think that there could be something there.
So maybe we don't go with a rating, so you don't put something on top of it. Maybe you go with like, all right, hey, you can click TAL, and then TAL, it has a little drop down box, and then it says, hey, TAL's got, these classes, this deal. They've got live stream at all their events. They do, whatever,
Oh yes, the level of competitors is definitely what can set you can definitely set you apart. But
yeah.
But that's one thing that can set you apart. But that may not be what's important to people, right? Some people may want an experience, right? Like
that's kind of what we're dealing with now, and I think in a sense I would say a big problem, but a emerging problem, I think, that's in the community is because we have so many events, right? That pullers are picking and choosing, and you would think that people would be picking and choosing based on the level of competition, but it does not seem to be the case, right? It seems like they're actually picking and choosing the particular event that they think that they might be able to do well at, which I can understand that in a sense, but I think that's where we're at, and I think that could be the problem in a sense if we get too many tournaments out there before the puller population grows to get to offset it, then that's what you're going to end up getting. You're going to have guys staying in their own little corner of the world, being the champions of the East or West side, and they're not going to be traveling out to all these other events that have different pullers in them and different experiences and stuff like that.
Absolutely. I think that you're absolutely correct. And if we can advertise what each of these things have in a sensible, fashion, like we were talking about with this, I wouldn't call it rating, but like a criteria listing, if you may.
Yeah. I like the rating thing because I'm of the sense, and I know there might be some promoters out there that don't like it because they don't want people to know nobody's coming to their event because then all right, cry me a river. All right. It sucks to have a small event. I get it. But like, if we're talking about like a rating deal, if TAL's got say 2 stars for some reason, all right, I'd like to know as a promoter, like what am I not checking off? Right.
That's true. Yeah.
Why, what is the real deal? Is it something I can change? Because some of these things might not be something a promoter can change, right? Like a lot of us can't offer payouts at every event, and if that's a reason why you might be getting a lower star rating or something like that based on pullers, then okay, that's something that we can look at and we can work towards, but it may not be something that we can directly change. But if it's something like, oh, well, here's another pet peeve of mine, and I like scratch the back of my head when I see it, is equipment, right? Tables not being bolted down. I mean, it's something so simple, but when you see it, when you see a table scooting around, you see refs trying to hold down a table, that to me, that's something that is like, okay, look, it's a a $60 piece of plywood, and you get two platforms out of it, and that can make the difference, right? So, it's something
I agree with that. I agree with that tenfold.
Yeah.
That's definitely a major pet peeve of mine. I like what. Why didn't you put that? Nail that down. Bolt that down, or have it on a platform. That's one of the things why I like the MAC table, Major Arm Wrestling Championship table, because their platform is actually built a part of the table. So you can pull on it, casually without it. But the table itself is heavy as all hell, so you're really not going to be maneuvering it that much. But you get some big guys on it, you're going to want that platform on it, and that really helps secure it and gives it,
Yeah, so the Mac table has it's got flat steel all the way around all four sides, right?
Yep, it's a flat steel. It's a flat steel square base. But then you have the rectangle base that goes over that, and it sits on top of it. So you're not bolting it down. It's just it just sits down on top of that, and when the pullers are standing on it, it's not moving. That's not going anywhere. it's a pretty ingenious design. I kind of like it.
Yeah.
You're not bolted on top of the plywood. The plywood's on top of the base of the actual competition table.
Yeah. So he's got to make his table a little bit taller to compensate for that.
Well, the table height where the elbow is actually the same as the same height as a regular elbow pad for any other standard WAF table.
Well, I mean, based on you got to offset the platform, basically.
Also, yeah, a little bit, yeah. It's a 1/4 inch thick. But
Yeah.
Yes, they do have that set up for that. Corey, the idea of people knowing the TL as say average level. Yeah, it could be huge over a period of time. I think period of time is what we need over that. I think that's something that's going to be a cumulative benefit to the community. Yeah. I don't think immediately it's going to help anything, but in that long run, that's something that would help.
Well, nothing immediately. I mean, that's the thing. You got to. I mean, I think in a sense that I think a lot more people are. And it's a really cool thing is that I know a lot of our Texas guys are using the airs to kind of like survey the landscape, right? We got guys looking at, all right, hey, what's their score here? What, Flash Pin Productions here in Texas.
Yeah.
They look at these things as well. Like when they're considering possible matches for a future card or something like that, they're not only looking at the pullers, but they're also looking at their air score, rating, and then going in depth, seeing what pullers they pulled against, who they lost against. So I think as we get more and more people accustomed to trying to use airs as an asset, then things like these, and it doesn't have to be a rating system. That's just that's my idea. It doesn't have to be that, but incorporating all these other little things. And I know Corey and Frank have a ton of ideas that they've just got sitting ready to pull the trigger on. It'll be a lot easier to, deploy them when you've got traction with the community actually using these things.
I think that's supply and demand, right?
Absolutely. But I don't think we have to be careful, though, going back to the number of events. I think we have to be careful, and this goes out to existing promoters and then the new promoters that somebody might be wanting to. You have to be careful because in the grand scheme of things, we don't have a lot of arm wrestlers across the United States as a whole. Like the number of arm wrestlers compared to events, when you average it out, it's not a big number.
Well, you know what it is? I think it's because it's not getting publicly known as of yet. I do think that we need more grassroots experiences. Like I was being at the anniversary event this last weekend. There was probably about 20 guys that I arm wrestled, and none of them have ever been around a competition table, but they've watched it, and they were like, I didn't even know this was a thing here in my neighborhood. And they're coming to the event this upcoming weekend, and I told them, listen, don't necessarily participate, just come and check it out and learn more about it. Come see, because it's at the same place that we actually train out of. Get involved and get you ready, prepared for the next event that we're going to or being a part of. And I think that more people need to not be afraid just to kind of set up a table in a open air spot and talk to people, let them know about it. Coach them, teach them, share what how did you learn how about the sport, and what can you do to improve upon learning experience? And I think that helps.
It does help, and like I'll tell you, like from our personal experience, and I was just talking with Dustin Laughlin, my director here in San Antonio. If things aren't really messing up, if we're in a regular practice schedule and stuff like that, we're a 4-table, 5-table practice easy here in San Antonio. We're like 25 strong, give or take a few. And so one of the things Dustin's always done is he likes recruiting events. So he likes to go out to these places and, set up a table like that, interact with the crowd, stuff like that. So we do our practices in public areas. So we'll do it at like the local bar and grill, or the burger joint or something down the street. So something where we're kind of visible and all that. But like if you ask our team, how did they find us? It's 9 times out of 10, it's not, oh, well, I would happen to be at this burger joint when you guys were practicing and saw you. It's social media, word of mouth, I heard from a friend or whatever like that. It's very, very few. And that's what we've always done. Dustin's always had practices in public areas where we were visible to the crowd and public and stuff. But oddly enough, it just doesn't turn a lot of, people into the sport like you would think, because you would think that would be the way, right?
Well, can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
I don't know if you guys participate in this. The anniversary I went to, they're actually a sponsor for this upcoming event. And they've been a sponsor of mine previously. So if you happen to have, let's say, a supplement company, we all see what the Arm Wrestling Whisperer is doing at that supplement store that he works at.
Oh yeah.
Set up a table at one of their events if they have one. Say, hey, like, you have an upcoming event to a sponsor that has already invested into you.
Yeah. And
say, hey, can we set up a table at your next event that you're having? Free of charge, and you don't have to pay me anything, just for the exposure. And as a thank you, and you can post all you want on your social media about us, and we'll cross promote. This is where we're going to be. Saying, hey, we're going to be at the sponsor or an affiliate that you may have, because I think that creates a stronger network. Because now not only are you going to further your relationship as a sponsor and sponsee, but you're developing a network. They may have a business partner that sees that because you're at their place of business or place that they do business, and they may want to bring you at their event. That's just a further. A step further with the grassroots and the networking.
The thing about arm wrestling. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. We've been talking the whole time. It's your turn.
I think the thing with recruiting people interested in arm wrestling is you don't generally find like the super strong people in a public setting. It's kind of just like the average Joe walking by and seeing that, okay, these guys have a table up. It's kind of interesting. They'll try a poll once or twice. Yep. But I've noticed, especially for the newer guys at my practice, most of the time when they find the practice through social media or things like that, they show up, and most of the time they say something like, oh, I arm wrestle. I've never been defeated before. You kind of hear that a lot. So it's kind of like, it's one of those sports that attract people that are already good at it, right? Arm wrestling is universally kind of known as a thing, but not as a professional sport. So it's only going to attract the guys who've never lost a match before, or who've always been interested, I guess, for them to actually take it seriously. I think from the average person's perspective, it is kind of a leap to go straight into practicing for a sport that they've not really done their own entire lives. But yeah, I think that's something to think about.
Oh, you're 100% right. 2 years ago, I went on an expo blitz. As a promoter here in Texas, I have tons of bodybuilding and strongman expo promoters reaching out. Hey, we want an event at our place, and it's difficult to explain to them that, hey, it's not like your world, right? Where you're not really relying on entries and stuff like that, and all this other kind of stuff. We can't just throw an event at your expo because a week before that or a week after that there's an event like 2 hours away. Like, it's just not cool. But what I did do is I started doing what I called exhibitions, right? So, like, if I went to, like, say, the Houston area, I'd call a few of my Houston guys, the Houston pullers. Hey, would you like to come out to the expo, hang out with me? They'd give me a booth. I'd set up a couple tables. I'd have some of my local arm wrestlers from the Houston area. it was always good to do local, because if we did find somebody that was interested, they had local guys there and the people that practice in that area. And for 2 years ago, I think I did 4 or 5 expos that year. And to my knowledge, I only got one guy out of all of them. And so what we did was we had the tables out in the middle of the floor, and it was like, hey, come on over. Let me show you a few things. We teach them the little, first few little safety tips and stuff like that, and we'd let them have a good time. We'd let them pull, let them have a good time, stuff like that. We'd give cards out, we'd give, flyers out, stuff like that, link them up to our social medias, stuff like that. And of all those expos, I know for sure one of them showed back up and actually, got into the sport. So as much of a great idea as I think it is, it's difficult. I think it's hit and miss.
It definitely can be hit and miss. One of the things I remember from sales and being a corporate trainer was that, with every, out of every 10 people you speak to trying to pitch them something, only 3 of them are going to actually express interest, and maybe possibly only 2 of them were actually going to pull the trigger.
Yep.
And, that becomes discouraging at times. I trust me, it can be,
Oh, yeah.
but it teaches you how, sales definitely teaches you how to deal with rejection fairly quickly. And, you keep going and trucking forward, because that's your paycheck at the end of the day. So, I definitely agree. But here's the thing. We are still a niche sport, right?
Oh, yeah.
We still are. But we have one claim that no other sport can actually make. We're the only sport that every man or woman has participated in one fashion or another. And it's not necessarily at a professional level. It's a hobbyist settling an argument with your sibling or spouse, yep, or uncle type of deal. Everybody has participated in the sport of arm wrestling. Period. There's no other sport that can lay that claim, across the world. And I will put money on it, saying that nobody else can say that. So when we give them that kind of standpoint, it's bound to grow, and it's good. It takes some consistent effort. I mean,
it's growing.
5 years. Yeah, it's growing.
Yeah. I don't think we're in any kind of like stagnant phase or anything like that. I think it is growing. I think it's like I said, we have to be careful that we don't outgrow ourselves, in the sense that we dilute everything down, so that it's just this weekend affair with 15 or 20 guys. We have to be careful. And look, at the end of the day, if that's what the community wants, if they want just something they can go out to the local joint, on the weekend, like cornhole or something like that, and have a good time, throw some darts, then the sport can be that. But then it's kind of hard to watch people walk around and go, oh, well, we want like big time super matches. We want we want high profile super matches that we want to be able to see that. We want payouts, stuff like that. I mean, I think every promoter should know the costs that go into throwing just a regular standard event.
Yeah.
And especially when you have bigger goals in mind, and that has to feed into that. But at the end of the day, the community's got to decide what they want. They can't, like I said, they can't have their cake and eat it too, in a sense, where you're just not going to have a lot of promotions that are going to have a ton of payout, because sponsors come and go.
Well, I was actually just on Texas Armwrestling podcast yesterday, saying like we need financial partnerships and not sponsors. I think we need
that is true too.
I think if we had that would elevate the sport tremendously, and that's one of the things I think we're all working and trying to build a product that's somebody with a big enough wallet sits there and says, hey, I'm going to invest a 5-year, 10-year, 15-year business plan to making sure you're successful, because I can see the benefit of what you're doing.
Yeah. And but that, and that goes into it. You as a salesperson, right? Like when I go in and I talk to sponsors and stuff like that, or we talk to venues or, stuff like that. It's a numbers game, right? So it's like, all right, well, hey, you wanna have this venue because that's one thing too is pullers talk about venues. We want better venues. Okay, well, better venues cost money, and a lot of times it could be a lot cheaper if I have something to show them. Like, hey, I'm going to bring 250, 300 people into your establishment. Uh, even though maybe that's not huge numbers comparatively to other sports and stuff like that, but it's a lot better than, hey, yeah, we usually have about 25 guys show up. So that's one thing to think about too. Is venues cost money. Like we were searching for hotels and stuff like that. I think a couple of years back we were doing our Texas State in the Eastern region, and like around the Houston area, the cheapest thing we could find and they were not budging off of it, was $8,000 for a banquet room.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a hefty bill right there. Whew.
And nobody's got that kind of budget, it would be great if I had a sponsor that would cover that or, something like that. But, then again, sometimes you can work out deals too with them where like, all right, well, it's typically $8,000 to rent it up front. But if you sell $5,000 worth of food and beverage, we'll give it to you for free. Well, now what's going to play into a factor there is how many people are going to be at your event.
Yeah.
Are you going to be able to sell that?
Yeah. How are you going to be able to promise that kind of attendance?
Yeah.
At that point. Yeah. No.
So it's a difficult juggling act.
Oh, it's a serious balancing act because and then awards, custom awards, cash awards. These are things that I'm starting to realize as my first event. I actually went and created a generic spreadsheet of just a SuperMatch event, and that in itself was a very and solely SuperMatch event, and that had some sizable expenses. And then when you're looking at a tournament, you got all the classes, men's and women's, youth if you're going to include youth, and because I want it to be a family-friendly event, that's what I want. I want to include the youth. I want to include the woman.
Oh, sure.
And not, and because of my entry fee, I decided to go with a better sized venue that gears towards family sport or familial sporting events, right?
Yeah.
And it's a athletic center, which they have coaching from kids, with kids as young as like 5-6 years old, all the way up to adults that are in their 70s.
Sure.
So broad spectrum, and so you kind of got to work with what the attendance you want to attract, right?
Yeah. And some of these places, man, some places just have diamonds in the rough, man. They just have these really great venues that, I mean, look, San Antonio's got one of them, like the venue we just did our Southern at.
Okay.
It's a really great venue.
It looked good. It looked good. Real good.
Yeah. It can be, I mean, when we have a good turnout, it can be small, but it's still a really good setup, and we can pretty much get it any time of the year we want.
That's crucial. That's gold right there. That's an Easter egg right there.
Like sometimes you find these diamonds in the rough, and they work out. But also trying to balance. Okay, well, it's super easy to have an event in this one particular area. But when everything's so big, it's like, okay, well, do I have it here or do I have it over here? Is there a higher concentration of pullers in one area compared to the other? So, it's not always going to work out.
So being off the beaten path, working with I think that on Long Island itself, there's between 60 to 100 arm wrestlers, whether they're active competitors or they're, active at practices, like from Brooklyn, which is a part of Long Island. Sorry, Shiyu, it still is. Brooklyn all the way out to Montauk the End. And it's a 118-mile island, right?
Yeah.
And we have 3 practices, big ones. One in Brooklyn's the biggest, I'd say. Between, of late they've been having more and more people at it because they minimize how often they do it, but they have it in between 20 to 40 pullers at any given time. And then you got my practice, which I have anywhere between, I'd say, 7 to 8 up to 20 pullers. And then there's another practice, which has, I think, about, somewhere about 10 to 15. And those are the active guys, right? There's other guys, though, that come and go as they please. There's another 20, 30 of them. If we can actually work together, we could have a solid event just by having an event where we all work together. We all work towards a common goal. Now, the reason why I lowered the price point, though, is because I want to attract everyone from a little bit of a further distance and say, hey, listen, check out this format, because that's the other thing. Is the format of the tournament changes the game, I think. We're doing a no.
Well, where were you at on entry fees, and where are you at now? Like, what do you mean by lower it?
So the entry fees on average in our area is anywhere between $35 to $50 for an entry fee.
Yeah,
give or take. So I lowered the and that's like across the board. I don't think sometimes there's no difference between amateur.
No, that's fairly average, I think. Yeah.
And so for us, we did $20 for the amateur and $25 for the pro.
Yeah.
So I made it fairly low. So that I wanted to attract the people from all over, and I'm getting messages from Idaho, from New Hampshire, Florida. People are coming from all over the place. People were going to come from Puerto Rico, but they had a scheduling conflict. But they were ready to come for that event, and I think that's huge because it's going to help tremendously in bringing people from other areas out. Now, am I expecting this to be a high caliber, the highest caliber? In the pro division, I'm hopeful because it is a qualifying event for TAWF, which is Jason Constantini's and Ian Carnegie's brainchild, TOF. It's a Team Arm Wrestling Federation. It's a really cool concept. They're going to be rolling out a lot more information for it. But ultimately, just think of NFL, MLB meets arm wrestling, with teams and whatnot. I think that it's a cool concept, and I'm happy to be a part of it. But we're doing a no elimination tournament to show people who can have this, who's a stamina king, essentially.
Is that just like another term for round robin?
Yes, it is another term for round robin. Ultimately, you pull everyone in your class, but the round robin is going to be limited to 8 people per class, so it gets divided up accordingly to that.
Gotcha.
So everyone's going to be pulling up with everyone. It's not a pre-sign up per se. It's a pre-registration. I opened up registration as of yesterday. I'll show everybody. If anybody's got their phones out, please take a screenshot of what's about to pop up on the screen, because I happen to like the idea of being able to do a registration a few days beforehand. It streamlines the weigh-in process, the pay process. So you weigh, you pay, and you go play. That's one of the things that I like to do and make it a little bit more user-friendly. If you check on my Facebook, you will see this posted and pinned to the top. But feel free to take your phone if you're watching at this time and screenshot that. It's gonna help out, I think, streamline the entire registration. I already have about almost 30 people who have taken advantage of this, which I wasn't expecting that many. I was expecting maybe 5 or 10 as of yesterday, and I go to bed. I'm like, holy crap, dude! There's a whole lot of people who are interested in this. So, I like using those jot forms or whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
It helps out with that.
Yeah.
But
So you're going to do like one for every class?
Yeah,
Is that-
I'm gonna do a round robin for every class. So in the classes, because it's a qualifier, they're gonna be a little bit of a different weight class. It's gonna be on the MAC table. We have our own MAC table that we'll be competing on.
Okay.
And we're gonna be following the MAC rules. So it's gonna be 0 to 160, 180, 200, 220, and then 240 plus.
Okay.
So there's only 5 classes. So and they're a little bit with that 3 pound clothing allowance, and for the pros, I do expect some heavy hitters like the gentleman on the screen, Shiyu. He's going to be he's our main event, taking on Kevin Nelson for the super match, and then pulling the tournament afterwards. If he has anything left in the tank.
I don't know if I am, but we'll see. We'll see.
So are you doing a true round robin format on each one of those classes?
Yes. So everyone's going to pull everyone.
That's for both hands?
Yep. Right and left.
You know how long of a day that's going to be for you, right?
Nope. It's not going to be that long. It's with the MAC rules.
Okay. I'll be watching.
Check this out. Mark my words, because we are in a time crunch, right?
That's not a good idea. You should not say put round robin and time crunch doesn't go well together.
Well, so I participated in the no elimination tournament up in Canada, and how they ran it, the round robin, up there, and it took them only 2.5 hours to go through. I want to say it was about 175 entries, and it was pretty impressive as to how quickly it was just bam, constant. Like literally, there was very little rest time. There's very little cool down period between my matches. I pulled everyone in my class, and I was like literally like, it was almost so like, hey, I need a few moments of rest instead of in the past, in tournaments, it's like I'm sitting around waiting too long to pull. There wasn't that problem. It goes straight to the finals, and it was actually really fast paced, and everybody pulled fairly quickly.
Probably need a lot of tables for that, right?
So we're gonna have, that's the other thing, is we're gonna have an amateur table and a pro table. So we're pulling them simultaneously. And not everyone is pulling right, that's pulling left type of deal. I'm seeing mostly people are gonna be pulling right, so what I'll probably do is I'll do the women's and kids first. And so the super matches we only have about 7 super matches. They start at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning. And then they'll go till about 11. Probably be finished up a little bit before that. Tournament will start promptly at 11. And then we'll be out of the venue, everything broken down by 3 o'clock.
That is a time crunch.
Yep. But it's going to be fast paced, and this is going to be something that, that's exactly why I wanted someone like Robert Kelly to be on with me. I wanted somebody who can keep up with that kind of speed, and make it still look presentable to the rest of the world. That's the other side of it. Like, if anybody could do it, Robert Kelly's the man.
Nah, he'll make it look good.
He'll make it look good, and he'll help keep it streamlined too. I will say they're all big on Google spreadsheets. So am I, and it's kind of working kind of seamlessly. And that's why we're doing the pre-registration early. So that way, we can streamline. Hell, if everyone's there for the super matches, we'll get the super matches started a little earlier. Wins, you know what I mean? We'll get to start a little earlier, and we'll get everything a little bit earlier if need be. But we do have a hard stop because the venue, they do their own like a Victory Pro Wrestling event that they're doing. So it's like the B list wrestlers, not the WWF, but like it's a couple steps below that. They have a monthly wrestling match happening at that venue, and then after that we have an after pool offsite party. But I want to talk real quick about. Are you familiar who Kevin Nelson is?
I can't say that I'm familiar enough.
So, for those who are watching, Kevin Nelson is from Game of Arms. He was part of the Team New York gave him of arms, and um, pretty strong dude. Got a pretty sick hook, and he's taking on Shiyu. He's going to be taking on Shiyu, which I think Shiyu is one of the strongest forms. Shiyu's got wins on people like Paul Cruz. Didn't you beat Steve Walker at one point, or gave him hell?
No, Steve Walker destroyed me.
Okay. Um, and so Shiyu, tell us, where do you think it's going to go? How do you think it's going to happen? Because this is your first time competing on a MAC table. How do you think it's going to happen?
Well, I think Kevin's obviously gonna try to go on a hook with me, and I'm gonna just be trying to avoid that. So yeah, I think that's basically where the match is gonna go. He's gonna try to sink in my pronation, and I'm gonna just be trying to keep it while going to the side. Um, I am very fortunate to have some people at my practice with extremely strong cups, so I've been kind of trying to mimic how the match would go. Um, yeah, I think it's gonna be a spicy one.
I couldn't agree any more than that, man. I think it is going to be spicy. I think that his hook is lethal. Um, as a top roller, I know Billy is a top roller too. He likes going on the outside. Billy,
Oh, yeah.
what piece of advice would you give to you, in regards to, going up against a hook puller?
I guess I guess it would depend on whether or not how they hook pull. Is he more of like a opened up like hook drag, or if he super inside? Does he crash down hard?
I think he's kind of in the middle. He
Yeah.
doesn't go fully shoulder committed, but he does try to supinate and try to sink in his cup.
Yeah. Well.
I plan to give him the special low hand top roll.
I
With
was gonna say that putting. I mean, maybe not a full low hand, but if he's not crashing down super hard inside, uh, dumping that wrist a little bit to add pressure into those bottom fingers from the start, would probably help you out. Especially if he's not committing the shoulder, meaning he's going to stay opened up a little bit. That's going to make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, for sure.
These pieces of advice, I'm actually taking them and writing notes because my opponent's actually similar at the end of the month. So,
yeah. I mean, another thing too is like I'm not very fast on the table at all, and so like one of the things I'll do is like if I know somebody is an inside puller like that and is a lot faster than me, then my first offensive movement is basically defense. It's away.
You give up your side, kind of.
Oh yeah, completely. Yeah, like I'll hit back to my back shoulder and back this way, like behind me.
Yep.
Before I even hit straight back. It's completely running away.
Just so that your opponent kind of hits air.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, that's if they're faster. Or if I don't think maybe their cups as strong as my pronation. But like I said, I'm not fast on the table at all. So typically, that's a lot of my hit is back in that area anyway.
Gotcha. You want to secure your position first before trying to pin anyone.
Yeah. For sure.
I am excited for the match. I'm excited for the event. I think that, what do you think is going to be your best asset with the MAC table, Shiyu?
Honestly, I have no idea. I've never pulled on one. I've only seen people pull on it. But if they are more lengthy, if the pads are more lengthy, I feel like it should favor me. I've noticed myself running out of elbow pad space, particularly against people who have longer levers.
Oh yeah.
I've been told that myself actually. When in practice, when I try to hook people, I kind of shoot forward, and before they know it, they're out of elbow space because my forearms are so long. So I feel like Kevin Nelson's built pretty similar. He does have long forearms, so I'm hoping to utilize that elbow space.
It's definitely gonna, cater to that side of things because it does allow. I think it's almost 10 by 10. It's almost 10 on one side and 10 inches on the other side. So and it goes all the way to the back of the table. So you'll be able to bring your elbow right to the back of the table. And the coolest thing is the little ridges at the border. If your elbow touches up on it, just a littlest bit, they'll give you a warning before you get called a foul. So you kind of get given a little bit of breathing room in that. The other side of it, though, is I know Kevin has a tendency to float his elbow a little bit. So you got to make sure you're prepared for that because the way that the pads are set up, they won't call a foul unless they see the elbow raised beyond this plane that's a little bit elevated above the actual elbow pad itself. So if somebody's got a little bit of a floating elbow, and they can really apply a lot of side pressure from that, you got to make sure, you're combating against that tenfold. They won't be stopping the match at that point.
Yep, gotta have that side pressure lockdown.
Yep.
Special thanks to Jason from High Five. He helped me figure that out. That side pressure is kind of a more important thing that I've thought these past couple of years. Um, you kind of see that online too, like people like Artem Taranenko, a top row king.
Yep.
He went from pulling purely top row style into kind of the Todd Hutchings style. I'm kind of starting to feel the same way, where I feel like the back pressure is kind of plateauing, and I notice more success in using more of my side pressure. So yeah, kind of a weird strength curve thing. Um,
It's an awesome evolution.
yeah.
Yeah. That's like with me. My strength is my hand,
Hmm.
and my weak part is my arm. So even though I never lose my hand, I'll lose with the arm. So
I feel
uh,
that.
but
I can
it's
relate.
also it's also a mental thing for me because I'm like, I don't think. Well, I pretty much know that you'll never see me bent back.
Yeah,
In
remember
like
seeing
Yeah.
a
you before like
flop
that.
or someone completely taking my hand completely like this or
Hmm.
anything like that. It's like I don't know. It's a mental block of mine that I just can't have happen. So
That's fair. I just wanted to do another quick shout out to the guys that are in the chat. We got Liam, one of my training partners, saying that Shiyu, you, yeah, you are he's a big fan of yours. Jerry Doro, what's up, man? We got Jesus Gonzalez of Beast Mode Arm Wrestling. Oh, speaking of Beast Mode, I got to remind everybody, we do actually happen to have early weigh-ins on Friday evening. Friday evening, we're gonna have it over here in the pit, from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. We'll have it 7:30 to 10 p.m. at Beast Mode Arm Wrestling, and then 4 to 8 with Steve Fernandez up in New York Smoke at his shop. If you scan the QR code on the screen, just take a screenshot of it and tap on the QR code. It will bring you to the GPS location to the weigh-in station. So that way you guys can get your weigh-ins, you can eat healthily. I want everyone to feel, all fueled up and ready to go at the tournament. It's definitely going to allow for, I think, everyone to make weight and have a good time. And then, let's see who else we got in the chat. We got Marcus Tedesco. What's up, man?
yeah,
Uh,
Jerry and Marcus
Freshman.
are my fellow Texans here.
Yeah, what's up, guys? I had Marcus and the other freshman guys on earlier last year.
Yep. Yeah, they got June 14th is the next flashman card into the fray.
That
We got
sounds
some
cool.
Yeah, they got some really cool matches set up. They're doing a new what they're calling what's being dubbed flash pin trials. I really honestly I know D Woody Dustin Pools he explained it to me, but I don't quite understand it yet. I guess I need to see it on paper. But it's a round robin style format with four guys, and So we got some top Texans in there. We got a really big super match. What we had, what I thought was both matches are great, but we had Nate McCallan versus Tucker Keating originally set up, is what they had. Nate backed out for some reasons. And then Michael Bedwell jumped in. So now we have Michael Bedwell versus Tucker Keating in the 232-pound class.
Okay.
And then they're doing the four ways in the 154, 171, and 209 class.
Whoa.
So
okay. I want to get compete over with you guys, but also I want to participate at a Flash Pin Productions event as well. I would love to do a doubleheader one year, just kind of hit both you guys up, because I mean, I love what you guys are doing. I love the energy you guys bring to the table. Like you said, you may not seem like organization on your side of the fence, but from everyone else looking in, from outside looking in, it has a good look to it. I always enjoy watching your shows. Your events are a lot of fun. I try to capture that kind of energy, in any events that we're having, with the Brooklyn guys and everyone else coming in. Just so everyone knows, if anybody wants to go train in Brooklyn or check it out or find themselves in Manhattan, this place is... How far away from Manhattan is it, Shiyu?
I am bad with geography, but I'd say probably a half an hour train ride from Manhattan. Yeah.
So it's a short train ride. It's close to public transportation. It's about an hour away from my house, but it's well worth going to because it's a good crew over there. Definitely check them out.
Yeah, for sure.
I am fired up for all things this upcoming weekend. Yes, 6/14 is the PA state tournament. That is Keystones. I will be talking a little bit more about that next week. I'm looking forward to seeing who shows up to that, because that is where I'm going to play right-handed, because I'm not competing at my own tournament. So for those of you who are coming out to Long Island to face me, you have to wait till the after poll. I'll face you guys when you get all worn out and tired. I can't compete that and run a tournament. I don't know how people do that. It requires a different type of brains, man.
Yeah, I get asked that all the time, because generally I do pull. Most of the time in my events, there's very few that I don't pull, but guys ask all the time. Goes, how do you just go from like being a ref or doing brackets to just all right, I'm on the table, it's my turn? And I don't know. I'm not one of these guys that has to like get all pumped up and get my adrenaline pumping and stuff like that. I just get on the table and just do what I do, and then go back to doing what I was doing before. So it's kind of funny.
I envy that capability, man, because that takes to me, it takes a certain mindset. It is a challenging, switching. It's I turn it up when I'm at the table. Shiyu can attest to it. I'm a different person, different human, but I can't run a tournament in that same type of mindset. I just can't. I can't.
Yeah, I get it. There are people that are like, I got one of my refs that's, pretty much told me, he's like, hey, I'm going to let you know when I'm coming to an event where I'm just pulling and not reffing. He goes, because I can't do both. And I'm like, all right, I get it. Just let me know, that way I can make accommodations. But yeah, there are people out there that they can't switch it off and switch it on, and really, I'm not switching anything on. I'm never like aggressive at the table. And, like I said, I'd never get like all worked up or anything like that. So I don't know, just laid back.
Well, some people, I tell them, listen, like some people on the card for the match, like we have another guy from Brooklyn, that trains in Brooklyn, Devon Perkins, and going up against Michael Service. These guys are very calm individuals, and I turn around and I'm like, I hope to see you guys fire it up, because like that creates an entertaining match. I for me, I like that, but sometimes the Stone Cold Killers, those guys, it also generates a different level of entertainment, right? Like the guys that have that can maintain, like a static, stoic face throughout the whole match. like, are you just brushing your teeth or are you arm wrestling? What the fuck are you doing?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I enjoy it. There's not very many times you'll see me at the table where I'm not smiling or laughing, even when I'm losing, So, I don't know.
Yeah, after a match, it's like literally the switch turns right back off though. Like I'll be smiling and I'll be congratulating me or checking, make sure that my opponent's okay. Nobody got hurt type of deal. But like I don't know how people can just stay like that the entire time like that. Like it's like you get excited? Like how do you move from 0 to 60 without getting excited?
I don't know. It's like, I don't know. And then I got like a lot of it. Hey, I need you. Let me know when I'm coming up. Like if I got somebody working brackets or something like that, it's like, hey, before I need about 10 minutes before I go pull. I'm like, okay, yeah, like whatever you need. But
yeah, that would be
I'll just go like I'll be running brackets, right? And I'm going, oh, all right, yeah, it's me and somebody else, and then I go running up to the table.
That's awesome.
Pull. Come back. All right, I lost or whatever. Keep going.
I mean, I gotta tell you, a complete different style of switching it up. Shiyu, last year's Jason Vale, he wasn't going to compete. He was chasing after a hefty bench press, and he was successful in it. And then comes in, competes, and just demolishes everybody, like it was nothing. So talk about like being able to be consistent across this, the board. I don't know how you guys do it, man. I wish I had that ability to achieve. I get exhausted afterwards, though. Like I was always at the same level. I don't know. I feel like I gotta mellow myself out, between things, because then I ramp it up. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like that's the cool thing about it is that you've got there's a bunch of different individuals in this sport.
Without a doubt, all walks of life.
Yep.
All walks of life.
It's a huge melting pot for sure.
No doubt. Do you have any questions for me? Either of you.
I didn't know. I didn't think of any.
I always put people on the spot with that one.
Right. No, I didn't think of any. I'm trying to think if I thought of any while we were talking, but I think I asked you anything that I had. So no, I can't think of anything at the moment. But cool thing, watching your show and stuff like that. And like, yeah, like when you mentioned that to me, you made my flyer, 5 years ago now? Going on 5 years. I was like, yeah, you're right. I did do that. I do remember doing that. And yeah, so it's kind of cool just to see where I'm at, where you're at, doing, what we were doing back then compared to what we're doing now. So
definitely, the needle's definitely moved in different regards for each of us.
Oh yeah, but it all feeds into the same thing, and I realize that emotions get involved and stuff like that, and people take words out of context and stuff, and so like when I say things like, "Hey, the community needs to decide what they want," at the end of the day, we're all feeding into the same thing, but they do it. What you have now may not be what you're going to have later. It's not necessarily against anybody, but it's like for a specific example. Like when it comes to Texas State, like Texas State runs me anywhere from, on average, about 10 grand to run. Like when you factor in all payouts, staff, stuff like that, I'm clicking at anywhere. If it's a big Texas State, and we do everything, all out. I mean, I think it was 1 or 2 years ago, Texas State was like 12 grand, is what it ended up costing me. And the only way we do that is through sponsors and attendance at events. So, like if attendance starts to drop because of multiple factors, right? People don't want to travel anymore, they can't travel, or different things. Or if there's just more accessibility to tournaments in their backyard and they decide not to travel out anywhere, that's going to make a difference. So at the end of the day, it's not about whether or not there's more tournaments or not. It's just like I wouldn't expect Texas State payouts to continue if if attendance drops, because it is such a huge factor. Now, unless we get, like you said, we get these sponsors that roll through, but I don't foresee that happening, um, for anybody anytime soon, just simply because it's a numbers game. I don't think we have enough numbers yet to present to, somebody that is looking for a ROI in any particular way, right?
I think we're on the precipice of that, or we're at the beginning
Sure.
stages. I think we're, maybe within the next year or two, that's something that can be a viable option.
I mean, you could possibly, let's just put it this way. I don't think the cool things that EVW is doing, EVW and them are not pulling in $100,000 sponsorships, and stuff like that. It's
yeah.
Not yet, and I don't foresee them getting to that number anytime soon. Now, are going to start pulling in, 10K sponsorships, stuff like that? Sure, I think that caliber, but that's, when the bar's here, and that's what we're talking about, and then you come down to the bar like where we're at, a good sponsorship for one of my events is, a good sponsorship is 500 to $1,000 if we get those, most of our sponsorships are a couple $100 here, a couple $100 there, or something like that. So at the end of the day, it's a numbers thing. If we had, instead of having 6,000 pullers across the United States, if we had 50, 60,000, that would make a huge difference on everybody's scale, not just like the top guys. I'm talking about on your scale, on my scale. That would make,
Well, full disclosure, one of the guys that I got to pull last weekend, he's a New York City cop, and he fell in love with it. He's committed. He's signed up. He's ready. He's coming down, right? And he was telling me about how he loves competition. He loves competing. He actually competed at a strongman event from New York City cops versus New York City Fire Department. And I turned around to him and I was like, well, what about an arm wrestling event? I know they do other events.
Sure.
You have, football and baseball, other events. What about arm wrestling? And he goes, you have no idea how many people would actually like to do that. And I was like, so can you help me make it happen? He goes, you know what? I actually might be able to. And he's like, let me see how the event goes for myself this upcoming weekend. And we'll go from there. Because he has done competition, powerlifting, bodybuilding, and the guy, he was 220 pounds, and with somebody who had zero experience, he picked up the mechanics of it like that. And I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah, some people do.
What did I create?
Yeah, some people it clicks with right away.
Yeah.
And then we still got guys in our team that have been pulling for 2 years that you still kind of have to go over there and go, you're not quite moving the right way still, but it clicks for some people,
That's the beauty of the sport. They get the body mechanics sometimes. Well, I do have one last question. This is a fun one. What is something about you that maybe the viewers or your friends may not know or have forgotten about you that you wouldn't mind sharing with us? Something fun, something different, something about your hobbies, something that you have a skill set that, like, hey, I know how to do this.
I'm really horrible at these type of questions, by the way.
This is are you an interesting person type of question?
I'm not. I'm pretty much. I mean, here's the weird. I mean, I guess it's not even the weird thing. What you see is pretty much what you get. Like, I don't have.
Okay, well, what about your past? Maybe something you competed at or accomplished, a hobby. Like, hey, I used to do X, Y, and Z. Like for instance, I'm a former cook. Like, Shiyu, what do you got? What do you got there?
I guess so I get this mostly from my normal non-arm wrestling friends, people who don't do any physical sports. I get told that my day job just does not fit what I'm into. So I'm a powerlifter and I'm an arm wrestler, but my day job is a software engineer for the Department of Education. So I guess that's something.
different.
I see a lot of blue collar workers, especially in arm wrestling. You go to a random army tournament. If your car breaks down, somebody's gonna be around to be able to help you out. But I'm just here typing on my keyboard all day. Um,
Yeah, there's
I
a
guess
lot of
that's
That's different. That's different. That's pretty fun and different. I like that.
yeah. I mean, I guess about the only thing that maybe is lame that probably well, I don't know. I mean, I guess people could put that, like I used to draw a lot when I was younger. And I was
Okay.
pretty good at drawing. Uh, but
Which,
I think
that's where
that
the hand control comes from.
yeah,
there
it
you
might
go.
be. It might be.
Yeah.
There you
But
go.
I don't know. Then I think about it and I'm like, I've been doing like flyer work and doing all these different things and stuff like that. So maybe people already know I kind of have some sort of like artistic ability. So I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
I've
I'm
never
not very
drawn a day
serious.
in my life, and I create flyers myself. I would say having that as a background helps tremendously. I suck at art, man.
No, I'm not very mysterious. So
That's fair. I appreciate it. So we got Jesus telling Shiyu that he is an AREP admin.
An ERP admin. I'm not sure what that is.
I have no idea either. ERP admin. Don't know what that is myself. But listen, Billy, I don't want to keep you much longer. I know you have
it's been great, man.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure, man. It's a lot of fun. If you ever want to come on here and talk about what's happening in Texas, actually, that's the other part of it. Anything coming up?
Yeah. All right. So we've got, as far as TAL is concerned, we've got our Eastern event coming up on August 9th. That's going to be over in the Houston, just southwest of Houston, outside in a little town called Stafford. We actually were able to secure a Harley Davidson dealership for that event. So that's going to be really cool. They're super excited about it. They're going to be doing some really cool things, kind of helping with the event and stuff. And then we fast forward to November 15th, and we'll have Texas State over in El Paso, Texas.
Okay.
So way out on the outskirts. And of course, all my Texas people know this, but if most people didn't know this, we this first 5 years, Texas State was in a rotation. So this is the end of the rotation. So the Western region is the last region to get the Texas State in its area. So we started off in the Southern region, year one, and we rotated east. Then we came back to the Central. Then we went north. Now we're going to the Western. So after this year, we'll be reorganizing that in a sense. Then Texas State will be more centrally located from then on. But everybody got an opportunity to host Texas State in their own particular region. So, that was set before I got in there. And that was one of the things I, kind of stuck to, was what it was agreed upon. So I'm going to go ahead and finish what was, previously agreed upon, and then we'll do something different afterwards. So yeah, we'll go all the way out to El Paso. That's a pretty good little trek. It's about 8.5 hours for me in San Antonio.
Wow. That's and you're
yeah,
still in the same state.
Same state. Yep. So yeah, we'll go out there. We'll finish up Texas State, and then we will, we'll just rinse and repeat and kick off. Next year is going to be a busy year. But we do also, minus the TAL events, there are a few local promotions here in Texas that have some events in July, September, and October. And then I think another one in December. So, I mean, basically, we've got a tournament every month for the rest of the year here in Texas. Anyway, so
there you go. Keep you guys busy. Idle hands at Devil's Playground, right?
We're talking about like the number of events. I mean, I think I was giving it out to somebody. Somebody asked, he goes, "How many events are actually in Texas?" And so I actually like laid it out on paper, and he was like, "Wow." I didn't think there was that many. And I'm like, yeah, there's quite a bit. So next year is going to be busy. Obviously, EVW is probably going to be back around in Texas at the beginning of the year.
Nice.
Yeah, that was a killer event. We did really, really good with. So I think they're looking at probably end of January, early February, and then a new championship with the American Unified Arm Wrestling in probably June in the Dallas area.
Okay.
So
Keep him busy.
Yeah, that Dallas Fort Worth area is going to have 3 major events. If everything pans out with EVW, AUA, and then our central region is also another big event. So Dallas Fort Worth will have 3 major events next year in their area. So, but everybody will be super busy.
That's exciting to have as many things like that going on, and I think you're in your own state too, mind you. Like that, that. I think is not an oversaturation of events. Here's the thing, and this is probably because of where I'm at with my conditioning. If I was living in Texas, I probably would be hitting every single one I could. Right?
Well, I wish it was like I said. I wish the stats actually showed that, but unfortunately, it doesn't. So we are where we are. But at the end of the day, look, accessibility is cool. It just, I think at the end of the day, the big question for me is this: if more events is what everybody wants and more accessibility, cool. I need to know. I kind of need to know this in a sense so I can restructure the plan, because I don't know. It would be a huge stress off my shoulders if I didn't have to worry about a $10,000 or $12,000 bill at the end of the year if nobody really cared about that anymore. You see what I'm saying? I mean, let's just be real about it. If nobody really cares about it and they just, it's like, hey, I just like to compete locally and that's it. Or then cool, I can change this up and I can take a huge stress off my back, and we can still do TAL, and the model not really change, but the financial burden on the back end of that, I can just lift that, and we can start doing some other things. We can come up with some new ideas.
One of the things, I don't know if you're familiar with Neil, New England Arm Wrestling League.
Yep, I've seen it. Yeah,
they're doing fairly well. They just started, and I don't know how. I'm hopeful that they keep going and growing. With what they're doing, I think their first event they had like over 200 plus entries, and the last one they had over 200 plus, and so
that's a generally speaking a really good tournament.
That's a good tournament. That's a good turnout. It's a nice turnout for a regional style tournament. Now, mind you, there's other little tournaments that are occurring all around it.
Sure.
They do theirs. I think they do 4 of them a year. That's their plan. They propose to do 4 of those a year for you to accrue points and whatnot, and then they have one big final one at the end of the year. But then they have smaller ones, and the people who go to the big ones, though, are looking to get those points because they have a payout system that happens actually at the end of the year.
I gotcha. Yep.
And so because it's all associated with each other, you accrue X amount of points, so you earn the paycheck at the end of the year. So I kind of like that idea, that kind of structured model, because then it takes a little bit of stress off of making sure you have payouts available at each of these other events, because you build up your points to get to that level.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely. Look, there are a ton of ideas out there. I mean, that's the thing. I've got hundreds of ideas rolling around in my head. I'm like, if I got
time to implement them.
Yeah, if I got rid of Texas state payouts, I could actually sponsor athletes throughout the year. I could pick, maybe 5 or 6 athletes and be like, hey, you're a TAL athlete for this year, and we're going to help you get to some tournaments, not just ours, but some other tournaments outside of the state of Texas or something like that. Or, hey, I want my refs to get better, like my refs that I have here. I could, allocate funds to bringing in some upper certified refs to help train these guys and do all these things and stuff. There's a lot of different things we can do. And I don't think there's a wrong way to do it. It's just at the end of the day, finding what is your core want. If they don't care about this, then cool, let's scrap that idea and let's go a different direction. Because it's going to be a lot better I don't have to worry throughout the year whether or not Texas State, I'm going to be able to meet the quota. We could just go, okay, well, hey, we're just going to do a little bit more for the regionals and we'll still have Texas State and it'll just be a state championship like everybody else,
Yeah.
So
it definitely, I think that's where a part of what you think you were mentioning earlier with Corey Miller, with doing like the rating, is crucial in that regard, because then you get to, you have an opportunity to get a platform of communication of the community to the promoter. Sure. And without necessarily being a direct like attack saying this person's doing this shitty job, or no, this is a general consensus. This is a mass consensus of what they believe, the community believes.
Corey just doesn't want Aries to be the messenger.
No, I get that. So maybe it's something we need to build up and create our own.
Yeah, I understand that. I get it.
It's like a separate entity, like a Google review, if you may, of promotions. Maybe we gotta, make the, put it in. I think that Arm Fighter might even have something that might.
So they do a little bit in this with their events now that I noticed, where you can, when you submit an event to Arm Fighter, they have boxes you can check. Does it have live stream? Does it have Grandmasters classes or whatever? You can check these boxes, and then when they post your event, it'll tell whoever's looking, hey, they have these particular features.
But can you filter the events out across the nation based on those filters? Because that would be. I don't know if you can do it.
Yeah, I don't know if you can do it based on those filters. I know you can filter them out based on state and date.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Because if you're looking across state lines and you're looking to travel possibly and say, hey, I don't care where I compete, but I want to compete at this event because it has X, Y, and Z, that would be an amazing evolution for us because, as promoters, because I think that it would really funnel things down for athletes.
Yeah, I mean, like we give our masters get the same awards as our open class or pro class. Mm-hmm. So because they're considered, in a sense, they're considered slightly an open class, but like at our last event, one of the guys that competed in our masters class, he placed. It came up. I gave him his award, and he goes, "These are the same awards as the open class." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's what you get." And it was like this big thing, oh, well, we usually don't get the same things, So I don't know. There's a lot of factors that go into this that, you kind of see these things where, I might hurt some feelings on this, but I think pullers can get spoiled.
I agree.
Right. So I'll throw TAL on the chopping block here. I think there are some people out there that think TAL is probably not a good promotion. Now, I wouldn't say probably. I think there are. I mean, there probably are some. But when you talk to guys that are in different areas and they experience these different things, and they go and they tell you something completely different, then I think sometimes our pullers sometimes they can get a little spoiled to what's actually out there.
Yeah.
Especially if they're not traveled. Some of our upper pullers are traveled, so they have experienced, stuff outside of state lines and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's not a tooting your own horn thing, but I'm just saying that you could have a completely different experience if you went somewhere else, and what you have here might not be so bad, or it might be worse. Who knows?
Yeah, that's spot on. I like that though. And it's very humble for you to admit that too. Because
sure,
you're not going to please everybody. That's not the goal. It's trying to please the majority of people, and not everybody.
Yeah, like I try to do the best that we can for the state and for the pullers. It's not always going to meet everybody's expectations, and I understand that. And but we're not, we're just trying to do our best, and we're trying to get better. And I think people kind of see that, and I hope they see that. But and we're not done. We're not done. We've got a lot of growing to do, a lot of learning, and still a lot of improvements left to do. So.
Well, we do have a computer guy on the screen with us right now, in the chat saying, "Talk to Shiyu. He said he's in software engineer. He can write up a program for us."
There we go.
It's very specific. It's out of my field.
We create an app. We get a couple of the Brainiac friends and coworkers involved. Tell them, listen, I got a little side project, a little side hustle. It can be one of the greatest things that arm wrestlers ever seen. In the palm of our hands, we can see exactly who to go to for what exactly we love about tournaments. I think that right there. It could be a winning recipe right there.
Yeah, I mean,
we got to make sure we give royalty fees to everyone watching too.
Right. At the end of the day, I think it's this: if you're going to be a promotion, I think being able to capitalize on some different things and different, whether it be criticisms or something like that. We have definitely had some criticisms that we've, it might have been a slow change, but we've made some changes here and there and stuff like that. So, if you're gonna be a promoter, you kind of got to do these things. I think these things need to happen.
Yeah.
So,
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Got to be ready to evolve and change with what what your local community wants.
Yeah.
Well, it has been a fun night. I got work in the morning. I do work Monday through Friday still.
I'm on vacation this week, so it worked out perfect.
There you go. That's awesome.
But
enjoy your vacation. Enjoy your family. Thank you for coming on with us.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on. We'll be seeing your logo on some TAL shirts coming soon.
Awesome.
So check that out. Yeah, no, thank you so much. And yeah, I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Thanks for having me.
Enjoy.
All right.
Thank you, Shiyu. Have a good one.
Thank you, Dan.